This is a 2004 Hyundai XG350. They're identical to the 2005 and they're notorious for their driver's seat, the airbag connector, causing the airbag light to come on the dash, which turns off all the airbags in the whole car. And as probably all you bloggers know, that Hyundai will fix it and it'll come right back on in a day or two, or even up to a couple of weeks. It'll just come back on again. So I'm going to attempt a fix by going to the junkyard and buying some cables and connectors underneath the seat, just stripping them out myself and making an extension so I can get tie down the connectors and have a good service loop, and hopefully that light will never come on again and the airbags will all work. When you go to the junkyard, you're going to end up with these two pieces, and we're going to splice them together later to make the extension, and we'll discuss that later. There's one, and there's the other. Okay, you're going to need a few things for the harness extension. You're going to need some kind of voltmeter, some kind of way that you can make sure that you've got continuity, that you've got the right wire connected to the right place. A wire stripper. Let's go over here. Shrink tube. You definitely need shrink tube. You need a way to shrink the tube with heat, so you can use a heat gun or use the soldering iron. So you need electrical tape, solder, and the soldering iron, wire cutters, and something to hold those wires still. For me, I'm a little old and shaky, so I use this to hold the wires still so that they're soldered together quite well. So I guess that's it. Unfortunately, I'd already made the extension, as you can see right there. So we're going to use, I cut out other cables out of the junk car. We're going to use this to show you how I made the cable. Alright, we'll be back in a minute. Okay, here's another connector I took out of that junk car. There. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to strip off, I know it's hard to see, but you're going to strip off each end of these wires, about 1/4 inch. Just like that. Both sides. Okay, there we go. Stripped off. Now you'll notice that this connector, they belong together, but their wire colors are different, except for the black, but that doesn't mean they go together. What you have to do now is stick this back together. Get yourself a meter that can check continuity or show some kind of complete circuit. This one beeps. Okay, so you take the connector, you take one of the wires, it's all connected. This will be your yellow connector. When you take one of these and you put it on the meter and see if it's the same connection. It is. It's beeping. So the black and this goes together. Okay. Ouch. Okay, they go together. And just for a reality check, these better have continuity too. That way at least you know your cables and your connectors work. Beeping. Okay, so black goes to yellow. Okay, so now you take those ones that match and you put them in your holder. And get them to line up. I'm not going to do it perfect, but you get them to line up where they're sitting right next to each other. And you take your soldering iron and your solder, and you solder those two wires together. Oh, skipped one thing. Before you solder those things on, you have to put shrink tube on the wires. Put them on there, let them fall back. And then also take a bigger shrink tube, a bigger one. See, this is the smaller one for the individual wire, but you put a bigger one on there because you're going to, after you shrink tube on the individual wires, you're going to shrink tube over all the wires. So put the bigger one on first. Doesn't have to be this long, but measure it out yourself. Put the bigger diameter shrink tube on. Put the little one on. Then solder those cables together. Solder them together. Then once they're soldered together, you bring the shrink tube over the connection and use your heat gun or your soldering iron to shrink the tubing. Once you get, and then when you do the other wire, get the other wire done exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. When you get that all together, then you bring the bigger diameter shrink tube over both connections and shrink that together. Now, if at the when you went to the junkyard and got those things off, if you got this, took this wrap too, you can use it because it's on the other connectors you're not going to use. You can use this to help insulate your extension. So remember, this pulls back, comes apart. Now that's the one I did. See, that's the extension. And the other extension, I simply connected these together, made sure I had the right wires, did all this, put all the shrink tube on, soldered them together, shrank the shrink tube, taped all the things nice and tight. See a nice tight taping. And then this is going to plug into the seat. And then this one will plug into the connector out of the carpet. That's how you put them together. But you know, I'm hoping you have some basic skills to do this. My background is in electronics, so it wasn't a problem for me. But you can always get a friend to help you if you don't have those skills. Okay. After you've moved the seat forward, you want to come to the back of the seat and remove those two bolts, the two plastic covers and the two bolts. They have a 14mm head. Then you're going to move the seat back. Okay, now that you've got the two bolts removed from the seat mount in the back, you want to move the seat all the way to the rear. Before you disconnect the power on the battery, make sure your seat back is forward so that the seat can be tipped back farther so you can have more access. If it's tipped back or just straight up, you won't get enough access under the seat. So make sure that when you've moved the seat all the way back, before you undo all those bolts, bring the back of the seat as forward pretty far and then disconnect your battery. After you've moved the seat all the way back, come to the battery and remove the negative side of the battery so you have no power to the car. Okay, now that you've got the battery disconnected, come to the front of the seat and remove these two Phillips head screws to take this piece of plastic out. Also remove these plastic covers from both sides and then remove 14mm nut from both sides. Once you have all four mounting points loosened, grab the seat and lift it up so it sits backwards to give you access to underneath the seat. The connectors for the airbag are these yellow connectors. You have one right here and then one back there. You're going to want to go to a junkyard and do the same thing we just did and cut the wire on both sides of that connector over there and down here under the seat. And you'll have to probably go to the back of the seat to get the back of that connector. Where is it? Right there. You have to go all the way to the back of the seat to get plenty of cable so that you can make your harness extension. There's also a tie down right there. So make sure you go to there, and it'll cost me $7 to get those connectors out in me. So anyway, there's two tie downs. They look like this. One is right there, holding that connector. See if I can get my finger right there. The other's right there, holding that connector. And you need to release them without breaking them. And I've done that with the tool I made out of a coat hanger. And I will put it in there to separate the two pieces. Right there, it's got to go right between this piece and the holder. Hope you understand what I mean. Put the camera down. Okay, sorry about that. I only have so many hands. Take the tool I made and you put it in between to release it, and then it should pull out. It says here in the manual. Okay, right-handed. Goes in there. Let's try it again. There, see? It's up. So that's what you got to do under the seat, because you're going to need this thing. I got this one from the junkyard when I got the cables and the connector. All right, here we go. Okay, as you can see, that tie down is loose there. And well, the lighting's not that good. Where is it? There's the tie down for the other cable. Put some more light on it and see. Well, anyway, it's right there. Let's move this, maybe you can see it. There we go. Right there, loose. You'll need that later. Okay, the one connector that's at the front of the seat, that's easy. You just press on here, on that, and it comes out. The other one's not as easy. It's not as simple. You have to pull this. Oops, let me turn it around. This has to slide back. Has to slide back. Once it's slidden back, then it can be unplugged. I don't have enough hands to do it. Hold on a second. Okay, here we are at the connector that's at the back of the seat. And that one, you have to slide this thing, which way? Okay. Slide it. Okay, here we go. Slide it backwards and then just pull it out. Okay. Pull. There we go. Okay. And then it just snaps back like that. Slide it backwards. All the way. Yeah, there we go. All the way. And it comes out. Snaps back. That's how you do that connector. Okay, you got to be careful you don't damage this, but you got to disconnect that from the seat. Okay, this is the connector at the back of the seat, underneath the seat near the back, that you have to slide to release. But you have to, there's a little thing holding the cable right there, so you have to lift that out of there. And then there's a clip holding this on. I hate to force things. Come on. All right, please stand by. I'm not going to have you watch me struggle with this thing. We'll get it loose and we'll be back. Okay, now that it's loose, you're going to slide this back. Let's see, get my big fat hand. Anyway, it slides back. See, it slides back, and then it'll unplug like I showed you on the other connector. And I don't have enough hands to do this, so I'm going to have to turn this off, and you will have to slide that back and unplug the cable. And that's the cable that you're unplugging is going to go down under the carpet. But we're going to put that harness extension in between these two connectors and also in between the other two connectors. Okay, well, I have the harness extension installed now. Right here is the extension cable. Comes up. I got it tie wrapped onto a bar up here. Comes down. The other one, connector's over there, right there. Comes down, and I tie wrapped them together, and I managed a way to put a tie wrap across there. You'll have to figure out your own way. But I got this tie wrap solid to the seat. Nice service loop. Connected it to the original connectors. And I poked a hole in the carpet. And I, let me turn this other flashlight off. I tie wrapped the connectors to the carpet. Took another cable. I drilled a little hole into the vent. And, which you can't see very well, into the vent. There's tie wrap right there. And I tie wrapped that down tight. I also kind of rerouted all the other cables so they were nice and clean. So this is the airbag extension cable now. Everything's tight. There'll be no, it's got a good service loop. There's no flexing of the cables against the connectors. It's all tie wrapped, so there's no movement on the connectors. Just a movement on a service loop of the cable. So, there you go. Bolt the seat back down and hook the battery up, and you may have to take it into Hyundai to get the airbag reset. Hope it works for you.